Hi, in this video I'll give some idea on how you can onboard new developers, integration consultants to your CPI delivery process if you're using the FreeGap tool. I really think it's a good idea to have a simple way to introduce people to how you're doing integration. And this is like an idea of what can be done, and obviously you need to change it so it matches your delivery process. This can easily be recorded either on Camtasia, as I'm doing now, or you can do it in Zoom or Teams. You can create a session with a couple of developers, record that, and deliver it to all new consultants on your development. But let's get started. So the idea is here we want to deliver our integration in the FreeGap tool. So we want you to be able to deliver your first change today. So that's a common approach from the DevOps. Once you onboard new people, they need to be able to understand the full delivery chain and being able to deliver integrations in one day. Obviously with integrations, and if you need to create new integrations, it can be a little difficult, but the idea is you should be able to do it. So the things I want to cover in today is a little about what our company is, how we deliver integrations, how the help desk and service desk works, what you need to do in that perspective, what's the FreeGap tool, and how to release and reprocess, how the release process works, and then how to test integration. At Company X, blah blah. Yeah, I guess everybody has this great kind of process about what you're doing, or why you believe IT is a driver for these things. And obviously, as a new consultant, it makes idea to understand all these concepts and why IT is important and what your business does. How we deliver integrations. Integration is important to the company. We need to be able to test and make sure that everything we do is delivered correctly, and governance is really important for us because we are SOX or GDPR or whatever compliant, and that needs to man out in GXP processes, that we need to document everything that we do. Naming conventions. When I get to a project, it's really important for me to understand the naming convention. What's the idea behind this? Because obviously sometimes you can look at some of the ideas that other consultants have been using, and it's not like which one are the one that you as an architect prefer to have. And if you do not choose any naming conventions, it's just going to be whatever the developer thinks and what he have been using in previous projects. And if you want to control your integration artifact, it really makes good sense to have a naming convention in place that covers these things. And also if you have patterns about what to do, how to process things, this is also key requirements. A lot of companies have some kind of a help desk about how to get started with your development process, what it is that you need, how to fix bugs and report time on specific issues, or how this goes around. And this can obviously be challenging for each different project. What are their key objectives? But yeah, in FreeGap we use Jira, and you can find the board here to develop on, and report bugs and fix or projects and new things that you're developing on. You also need to register your time on it, and to get started you just go to this. You will then either be assigned a bug that will be assigned to you, or you can create a new one if it's a new project. Demo onboarding. So it's a new task. And obviously there's a lot of process about what can I do with these different things. So we have created one here that's called NIC3 and we will start on that. So we'll set it to I guess in this one it's a little limited. You probably want to have a status that says in progress, but it's good. Okay, so we'll just have one here. So that is where we have data in. When you start, you'll be given access to the CPI system. You have a user ID that will be created. The URL for the CPI is the following: the FreeGap URL, Git Repository, users, Jira, we should cover that, VPN, and PI. If you want to do PI development or need to do PI development, you obviously also need a PI user. So we're using the FreeGap tool to manage the full delivery process, and this has a Git repository that allows you to work on new tasks. It allows you to create test cases that you can manage. It allows you to manage all the change management, create the transport tool, documentation, and of course configuration once we go along, and support also. So all of this included in this tool, and that makes it a lot easier for us to deliver SAP integration in a simple way. So let's start with the first thing. This is the Git repository. So, and we'll take the next slide also for that. So it's one central tool that allows you to make it easier for developers to work with all these non-BPM artifacts. So that's scripts, primarily scripts or Groovy scripts, but also XSD installs and stuff like that. Being able to manage these and edit them in a real editor makes it a lot easier. So you'll be giving a Git URL, and what you need to do is you just need to extract that URL. And once you have done that, you will then be able to go into your favorite tool. We do normally recommend IntelliJ because it's pretty easy, but it obviously depends on what you have of options in the landscape. And once you have extracted this, it comes with all the pre-delivered content that you need. So it has templates, and depending on how we have committed this, the settings Gradle contains a list of all the iFlows you have. The build Gradle contains about how to run these iFlows, and then you have the Gradle IoT property. This one you need to create a version of where you add your username and password. So you need to copy this, just call it Gradle.properties, and here you need to replace your username and password. And once you have done that, you will be able to use the tool. So in the tool you will see all the artifacts we have. There's some common stuff up here that allow us to run our iFlows. If you want to check out a specific iFlow, there's the package, then we have the iFlow, and underneath the iFlow you can see all the different attachments and properties and stuff like that we have to make it easier to see payloads and manage it. So if we want to make a change to our specific iFlow, so we'll change just this this value here in this Groovy script. We will just press save. We can then, one of the things, once we have configured the right Gradle properties, we'll get this view over here, and what we can do is we can upload. We also have an option to download, and sometimes you wanna, if you're changing the BPM model, you need to download the view first, and then it'll. So yeah, you probably wanna download the iFlow that you have, and then you'll see something has been changed as a part of this. We'll just make a change here, save it, and then we can upload it again. So if you're making changes to BPM model, you need to up and download these things here. And what it will do once you press the upload here, it will obviously take this bundle and upload it. You can start deployment if you want to do that. But in most cases, you probably want to wait to figure out what's going on there. Good. So that's the Git repository. The other thing you have is an option to run. And once we have created test cases, we'll show that a little later. One of the options you have is to put to Git repository. And if you use that, what you can actually do is you can run these grid with this sample content. And if we go in here, we can set a breakpoint. We've done that already. And what we will then do, so we can go here to the Gradle scripts IoT, we can go in here, we can send run, and what we'll then do is it will run with some of these pre-delivered context that contains all the relevant information for this specific point in time. And with that, you will then be able to see what the data is at this specific point in time. So we can see the message, all the header properties that has been inserted into this and stuff like that. So this makes it really simple to edit, maintain, and manage your Groovy scripts. And you can debug this in the favorite tool you have. And you can also go around and see if something goes differently. If you want to create more advanced test cases, it is also an option. And the best way to find that is if you go to the FreeGap tool, we'll cover that a little later. Go to the manual, and in here search for. There is here in the dev. The unit tests. Groovy. Unit tests Groovy here. So here is the standard way, and then if you want to create your own custom test where you will use the payload, and then once you are getting the payload response, you will be using assertion. This is also an option to make better test about what's going on in this iFlow, and this makes it a lot easier for developers to go around fixing these things, because you get the payloads as a part of this. So that was a little about the Git repository. Download it, add it to your favorite IDE, and then you can develop things in it, Groovy scripts and stuff like that. The other thing we have to make our life easier is that we have shared artifacts. So this is scripts and other stuff. And to find them, you go to the FreeGap tool, you go into choose the development agent, you then select in the filter here, just search prefix shared, and what you can then do is if you have this shared resource, you can see which iFlows this has been used on and if it's up to date, and then you can simply select here add to a new iFlow, and then if you do that, it will be added to this specific iFlow, and you can then manage it in that way. And then it will be like all iFlows, and the idea is that you should not change these kind of scripts too much, because then we need to replicate this to a lot of other iFlows. So the transport procedures. So with the FreeGap tool, one of the things that it does, it's continuously downloading all your repository objects and giving you versioning control of all the iFlows, packages, value mappings that exist in the system. And you can also trigger this manually, and then it will start processing the iFlow. So if we go back to our example here, so we have our iFlow, we can see the landscapes that we have here, and we can open a tenant with our user. And once we have done that, we can, we obviously need to go to the iFlow. So as by default, the IntelliJ or the Git Gradle upload will not create version numbers. You need to do that manually. So you just go into edit mode. Obviously, you can make changes to the BPM model if you want to do that. Save as a version. So now we have 94, and we can just say create deployment of this. So now we have an iFlow, we have made a change, and we know what this change is. And that means that you as a user will go into here, reset the filters, and then you will stay synchronized. You can then either synchronize all, but the preferred way is just to synchronize the packages that you have made changes to. And then it will download all of these packages and configure these. And then we can see what has been changed. We didn't release this. So we can see here. Oh, didn't want to make a change. We also have shared here as a filter. Probably not ideal. But now we can see here we have 94 as the new version of this object. We've also changed the Groovy scripts, and for all objects in here we can go in and see versioning, what the difference between two different versions are. So it's really simple to see versions that has been changed here, making it a lot easier for developers to see what's going on. And if you go into specific versions of an object, you can also see which change request has been a part of. So now we will select this iFlow and the script here, and we want to make sure that we can transport this in our development process. So we'll select these two. We will assign to ticket, and the ticket will then be using this the information from our Jira. So we will take the title here. The description is obviously in this case the same. So we'll take the here, we will say this is assigned to Daniel. You will select the CPI landscape that we have, and then the Jira ID is this NIC 3. And the link to the URL, you'll copy this from here, and then you can put in the description. So you don't need to go to Jira to see everything that was there. So now we have a ticket that's assigned to our Jira incident. We know what is a part of this, and we can see all the objects that's a part of this change. We can go in here, we can look up, do we have any test cases for this already? And we do have that. What we can go in, we can say, okay, we got this new test case. And you will need to add all test cases for the specific objects, or for the specific objects that you are changing, because we want to make sure that we're testing all the different properties regarding this. You can then select run on the development landscape that you created. And what it will then do is it will switch the iFlow into trace mode, send messages into this iFlow, and then you can process these messages. So we'll go here, you can pull alerts or pull messages. This will download all the artifacts that we have as a part of this this process, and depending on the size and number of test cases, this can take a little while. So now it's completed. We will then go into the view results here, and we can see there is some errors here, which was expected because we did make some changes to the payload. So we can see here this demo value was changed, so that is okay. So we can go and add this to our ignore list. Then we can, let's just take a comparison, another one, divs here. So that's the only one that was changed there. And I think it's one of the last one. There may also be a different one. So it seems to be all the same. So what you can do is you can run here comparison. This will compare all the document again with this new exception that we have added. And this can take a little while for time to time. but this seems to be okay. So there's one other thing here, so we'll take the div here, and this was the other property that we changed from 44 to 55, so that's good. And what you can then go is you can just go click here and say use as test case. So next time we run it, this will actually be the result that we are getting. And because I've made that change, you will also change this one, because we need the webinar demo is important for other cases for us to run. So now we are saying that the new width 13 is the one we expect. And I cannot remember if I can run it here. You'll need to go back here. You can select here and say rerun. This will send the messages through the system again, making it possible to download them again. And then hopefully we should get all results, all process results. And obviously you need to go through these with diligence, making sure that everything is expected. And once we cover testing again, so we'll just see view results. So it's all success, so that's good. And the stages out here sometimes can take a little while for it to complete, because we just need to, or the system needs to recalculate this and see if everything is successful. So once you have tested everything and it looks good, you are ready to start the transport. Well, obviously there's some things that you need to cover in more detail in different cases, like testing. So obviously regression testing can cover something. If there's part that is not covered that you need to make changes to, that's not part of the regression test, you obviously need to deal or contact the business and ask them also, what are these specific things? How do we the new feature we added, make sure they have an end-to-end test on this. So now we can see it's successful. So that's good. So now we can start the transport, and we can start the transport, and it is then started. And we have options in the FreeGap tool to transport individual iFlows. And I think maybe we'll just need to go back to our slide. So we have synchronized object, we have added it to a ticket, we have created the test cases. Now we are creating iFlows or creating a transport. Next up is we want to configure this iFlow in the landscape. And before you as a user can approve this and transport it, one of our architects needs to approve it. Then we can import it to Q&A, configure the iFlow, and the same things with the productive system. And once this is done, you can go and upload the Jira and finish the Jira task. So let's go through this. So now we're created the transport. We have an iFlow in, and one of the things with iFlow is you have an option here to run comparison and specify all the parameters in the full landscape. What are they supposed to be? What's going on in the landscape? And the idea is you need to make sure that the username password exists on that landscape on the system, and you'll get these marks that says, hey, we have actually determined that there is a username, a password called OData password that does not exist on our QA system, and that is obviously something we need to make sure exists. For now, I'll just keep it, but you need to make sure that it exists on your system and you're not getting these changes. So we can send it to approval, and then you as a user will not be able to approve it. I as an administrator have access to approve it, and I can go through all the code, all the changes that has occurred as a part of this, and approve it. So we can say, create it as a call, and you will then see here what was done with this, or you'll get a reject notification. Hey, there's some things you need to make sure is tested, or naming convention, stuff like that is different, and then you will need to create a new transport on this specific case. You then have an option to import it, or maybe not, maybe someone else will run the import for you. And now it is being imported on the QA system, and this will just take a little while for it to process. Most of the times you will get a pop-up box saying, hey, it's being synchronized. So we can see here we're still getting an error saying the password is not there, and you obviously need to make sure that is not a problem. So, now we need to go back to our ticket, onboarding ticket. We need to say here to set it to resolve. Obviously you need to go through the full landscape, get it into production, and once that's done you will set it to resolve. And in resolve you cannot make changes to it anymore, and then you'll just go in here, create a report, and this report we can then download. And if you open this, this contains all the information about the changes that you have made as a part of this this process. So here we can see all the test cases that we run, they were successful, the output, what are all the objects in all the different systems. So we can also see here in our QA system what were the objects that were imported there and stuff like that. And we got the external information about this, and we got the transports when they were done. So what you'll do is you will go back to the Jira. You will just attach this this latest document change that you created. So we can insert this as a part of this change request, so we know why we created this, and then you can write all the details about why this was done, what was important as a part of this, and then you can just set it as done, and then it's completed, and everybody is happy with it. Obviously you need to report the timing on this, and that you can do this in some specific way. That we need to cover. So that's I just want to go a little over the testing, because obviously testing is important, and the main goal is that you need to use the regression test to make sure that nothing new breaks, and the test can be done with the FreeGap tool. It is really simple, as you saw, so it can test all the existing things you have. If you want to create or update existing cases, you can also do that, or you need to do that, so all the test cases should run successfully. Otherwise, the next developer that is going to make change on it will not know if something else is happening that's not supposed to be there. We can also handle mocking of services, so this is really useful if you want to test the flow, but the end systems do not really respond with data or stuff like that. So this could be create employee in SuccessFactors that you can only call once. That would not really be useful. This is not the end of all testing. You will still need to create your own test, running test with a different perspective. So you need to make sure are there things that the integration test and regression test will not check, like you have pre-filled or filled in a specific detail in the end system, or if this is a new one, you obviously need to also create test cases based on what's happening. So what you need to do for that to work is you will go to the FreeGap tool, you will select the object that you have selected here, get customer orders too, so you can say here record messages, and you can either add it to an existing test case and find one that suits us. So we'll just create a new test case. We can select how many messages that we need for this. We can specify, is there any specific data that we need for this to work? So we have methods and partner details that we need to fill in depending on what kind of method. So if this is something for a specific partner, we can fill in data in this way. Then you will just click here say activate, and this will then say make it as a started recording. What this means is that if someone sends messages through this, we can create test cases for it, and then you will just sit back, wait until business, or if you can trigger test messages yourself, have created a test message that we can then use for the testing. And obviously, depending on the complexity and changes of these things, you will probably need to use a different number of counts. So if you don't really know what new message is there and what kind of thing you want to cover, you need to raise that. If you know, or you can trigger a specific message, you need to deal with that. And then once you have created this, you can just say pull messages. There's also a batch job that is running that you can use to extract these data. And then here you can see if it is actually what it is doing in terms of these things. So we can see all the different messages in this recording request. So now we can see we got 1 inbound and 35 outbound. So that's all good. We can look into the details about all the messages we have, and we can then create it as a test case, specify which systems this is valid on. And once you have created this, you can actually run this the same way as we saw before. So you can just select run on a specific system. And here you also have the option to see the messages. If you click here, generate Groovy script and add to Git Repository, all of these test cases will be uploaded down to the Git repository, where you can use them or update it in this standard flow. We also have some options to do anonymization of messages if that's possible. And there's also, you can see all the previous test runs where this has been used in. So that was a little about the testing. One other feature that we just need to cover was the thing, if you are here on the test case object, you can go to test configuration. Here we can see which objects in the XML document is ignored, which header properties are ignored, if there's any steps or auto expressions that is ignored. Auto expressions is if you have a document that's being split and you want to make sure that it comes out correctly, probably more in a PI context. Then you can delay the processing for a number of minutes. The most important one is this use mock endpoint. If you have created this one and are creating test cases, what it will actually do is it will create a new iFlow with the same properties as the existing one, but replacing some of the content in this, so making it a lot more flexible, so you can actually test all of your logic, even though we cannot use the backend system for running these things. So that was, I guess, the part of the onboarding. We covered the testing 2 times. The last part I just want to cover is this message monitor. This message monitor allows you to see specific messages that are being processed, and if you want to create a specific filter, like if you're doing a specific project, you can create we have this new onboarding project. You can select specific iFlows. So you can just select a number of iFlows that you want as a part of this. And then you may want to select all the statuses. And you can then see this iFlow out here in the monitor. And you can then, now we don't have any messages in this. If we just check the other one here, we can see we have multiple iFlows, but not all iFlows, and we have properties here. We can see payloads and stuff like that, both persisted and MPL attachments. And obviously, if this is a trace iFlow, you can then go and see the trace in the standard PI monitor. So the tool does not give you that option, but it gives you a good way to see what is going on with that specific case. So this is how you're developing at our landscape. I really hope you will be, it'll be fun working with you, and all these different kind of things, stuff. So yeah, if you did like this video and did see that the benefits of having a standard process for onboarding your developers, consultants on, then you can go to freegap.com/devops, sign up for the tool. There's a free trial. It's simple to set up and run, and then you'll get all of these enhancements that make it a lot easier for your developers to get started. Thank you.